stop there. I think perhaps, Mr. Sampa, to take advantage of your time, would you like to offer us your thoughts on what you've seen in the report, its description of the situation in Zambia in particular, and also obviously your more general thoughts on...
Yes, thank you very much, and I really appreciate for you having to sort of rearrange your program just to include me in this discussion. I'm not sure, do you want me to go through my comments, or do you want me to specifically just react to the issues that have been raised?
No, I suggest you give us the comments you had it in mind to make, and perhaps insert in those any response you want to make to the comments that have already been.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Right, so I suggest you give us your, comments and add into those, if you wish, any response to the comments we've made on our side.
Okay. I think I looked at the report, and I must say that I commend the authors of the report. It's a job well done. And to basically look, the way I've tried to look at my comments is to sort of look at whether competition policy is necessary to economic growth and development. And I think what is true in most developing countries is that we tend to look at competition law and competition policy as one and the same thing. We don't seem to be to align these things in such a way that they are pulling in the same direction. As Karen had said earlier, she had mentioned that competition policy is much wider. It includes trade liberalization, it includes privatization, it includes commercialization. And when you look at competition law, it's very specific. It is looking at the regulation of businesses and probably and most certainly government institutions, which may raise anti-competitive provisions or policies or engage in such conduct that is anti-competitive. And so when you look at the Zambian experience, you discover that when we were liberalizing, now going from the command type of economy into a free market economy, that was in the early 90s, we started with the competition policy quite all right. But it took almost 7 years to establish a competition body. In 1990, there was the privatization, there was the liberalization of the market, and so on. And in 1994, they passed the competition law. In 1997, which was 3 years later, they established the Zambian Competition Commission. And one of the results of that was that the private sector that was being privatized, which was basically very highly concentrated because this was state-run, we basically had a transition from a state monopoly to a private monopoly. And if at the time there was a competition law in place, and if at the time there was a competition authority in place that could intervene at the time, we would have tried to see or intervened to ensure that this does not happen. It becomes a bit difficult to actually control, monitor abuse of dominance, dominant position of market power when you already have a dominant firm. But it could have been that had we have the competition law in place at the appropriate time, we would have prevented such a highly concentrated market. And interestingly enough, all the sectors that this report has looked at, all these companies were once state-owned. Then on top of that, when we look at the Zambian experience again, you're coming from a command economy, so what you would need to have is competition policies really changing the laws, the regulations, to ensure that your market is really competitive and it is market driven. And there are so many laws and statutes and even policy, government policy, which do not seem to be aligned with what the competition law seems to put forward. And so there's a need to sort of look at or ensure that the policies are also changed, and they do not necessarily conflict with the law. And these are some of the problems that Karen has mentioned, especially like in the sugar sector. It was very easy for them to convince government on the fact that sugar must be fortified with vitamin A, and prevent import competition. And with that, we have a situation where the price of sugar in Zambia is 3 times that of the world market, much more expensive, even though, as the report has suggested, the sugar company is quite efficient. And at the same time, when you look at maybe the beer market, we have a situation again where the benefits that the government is probably obtaining from the taxes, the high taxes from the beer market, again, sort of protects them, and they do not want to see maybe a competition authority to actually engage and stop these anti-competitive practices that are going on. Then my third point of observation has been that coming from a small economy, our economies are really mono economies. So there is this sort of concentration on maybe a single product. For Zambia, it's copper. But at the same time, even other companies or other sectors which seem to provide a lot of investment, if you can call it that, or a lot of jobs, become very strategic to government. And hence, these sectors tend to receive better or maybe even tax rebates to encourage such a sector, because it seems to be it's basically in national interest. Or you may look at it in terms of the licensing procedures. For the telecommunications sector, for example, the incumbent, which is Zambia Telecommunications Company, has a monopoly right, and this is in statute, to be the only company in the landline sector. And of course, this brings about a lot of conflict with the competition law. But I think what needs to be mentioned here as well is that competition law and policy are basically new phenomena in developing countries, and because of that, there is a high degree of control from government. And in control, it could be that doesn't necessarily mean that it is government would institute or make directives to the competition authority, but just the mere fact that they can control your budget, they can control the appointing authorities, it becomes a bit difficult for the competition authority to actually tackle all these cases in a fair and just manner, if you will. My fourth observation also was on the aspect of foreign direct investment. Again, because you are a developing country, you have taken up a strategy of export promotion, and you're looking at foreign direct investment as a way of growing your economy. And whenever a competition authority tries to intervene in FDI through mergers and acquisitions, for example, you discover that there's a lot of resistance and vested interest in the government as well. So you can see that there's this point of conflict, I suppose, if you can call it that, between, again, the competition authority and the government and the government policy or program. And on top of that, as FDI comes in, for example, you receive $100 million maybe for a cement company or an expansion program in a sugar company and so on. you'll find that the government will now give incentives to these particular, and usually it will be the incumbent firms that will do this, and they will give them incentives, which again makes it anti-competitive for the other firms which do not receive this state aid. So what lessons have we learned from this? We as a small competition authority, though we've been around for 13 years or so, the way we've looked at it is that we've had to ensure or position ourselves in the government policy and applied advocacy. And that is a way of ensuring that, first and foremost, the government understands what our role is, and secondly, we try and make sure that for whatever benefits are derived because of enforcing the competition law, we make it known to them. Because many times it becomes very, very difficult to actually show the benefits. Of course, a report like this that we've just received makes it much easier for us to advocate to government. And I think what has happened over time is that even though we've in many times we've not been successful, but the mere fact that we've persisted and continuously engaged government on various issues, we've managed to make some headway in quite a number of issues. And one of them was the telecommunications sector on the international gateway. There was what we can call an artificial barrier by the government was basically asking for $12 million for anyone who would want to operate an international gateway. And all the private companies, including the mobile companies that are present in Zambia, could not actually afford, and this became an artificial barrier and left the incumbent as the only company that operated an international gateway. Now, with our persistence, we kept on going to government, highlighting the benefits of competition, showing them the statistics as such a report has done. And eventually we've gotten through. It has taken some time, but we have gotten through to the government, and the fee for international gateway has come down to almost $100,000. Then on the issue of, again, statutes and looking at the way basically looking at the statutes that may have inherently anti-competitive provisions, again, our role as a commission has been to advocate. Whenever there's an amendment to a bill, we have made known our position. We've gone to Parliament. We've made presentations, submissions, just to highlight all these issues. And it's not a guarantee that this is you'll get your way, but I think with our persistence, we've seen that has helped. And in helping us, we've discovered that the commission is being recognized as a source of where they can get opinions. So whenever a parliamentary committee is looking at a specific bill, they would always request to hear from the commission. Then the other thing again on FDI, and as I had mentioned on foreign direct investment, especially when government does offer special incentives to multinational companies that are coming in with a lot of money, we have again been consulted on several times to come up with maybe a framework which would be a bit more equitable. And so in a nutshell, I can say that for a small competition authority operating in a developing country, the issue of advocacy becomes a very, very critical issue. Then the issue of understanding your environment, understanding the government policy, and understanding what they want to achieve and how you can fit into their program also becomes a very important issue. I think those would be my comments for now. Thank you.
Mr. Sampa, thank you very much indeed. I think those are very interesting comments indeed.